I never thought a simple Saturday afternoon could turn my world upside down. My name is Alex, and at 22, I was living the life most people would call normal: college classes, part-time work at a small gaming store, and a long-distance relationship with Emma, the girl who had somehow stolen my heart years ago. But beneath the surface of my everyday existence was a secret I'd never shared with anyone, not even my closest friends. A secret that, until that fateful day, I barely understood myself. It all started as a curiosity. Gaming had always been my escape, but one weekend, while Emma was away visiting her family, I stumbled across an old box in her closet labeled Costumes and Dress Up. My fingers trembled as I opened it, revealing a carefully curated collection of skirts, blouses, and shiny accessories. At first, I felt a strange mix of guilt and excitement. Emma had never mentioned this side of herself to me, yet here it was, waiting for me like a secret invitation. I couldn't resist. With a nervous glance at the clock, Emma wouldn't be back for hours. I pulled out a simple pink skirt and a soft, silky blouse. My heart pounded as I held the fabric against my chest. Could I really do this? Would it feel as strange as I imagined, or would it awaken something inside me I hadn't yet acknowledged? I shut the door to her room and stood before the mirror. The reflection staring back at me was half familiar, half foreign. As I slid the blouse over my arms, a shiver ran down my spine. My reflection began to blur into someone else, someone daring, fragile, and beautiful in ways I hadn't known I could be. I took a deep breath and stepped into the skirt, adjusting it around my waist. The sensation was electric. It wasn't just cloth. It was a transformation of identity, a whisper of the person I had long buried beneath layers of everyday life. Emma's presence in my mind was a mix of comfort and intimidation. She had always been supportive, yet teasingly sharp in her humor. What would she think if she ever saw me like this? Part of me craved her approval. Another part feared disappointment, judgment, or worse, disbelief. I wasn't ready to face those questions, not yet. This was my moment, my secret to explore, and the thrill of it coursed through me like adrenaline. I stepped closer to the mirror, studying the angles of my face in the reflection. My short hair framed my face awkwardly, so I reached for a wig I found tucked in the corner of the box. Running my fingers through the soft strands, I placed it carefully atop my head. The transformation was nearly complete. The person in the mirror had Alex's eyes, but Emma's playful elegance. My heart raced faster with every adjustment, the way the blouse hugged my shoulders, the skirt swaying gently with each shift. I was both terrified and exhilarated. I experimented with my posture, small adjustments that made me feel more like the version of myself I hadn't known existed. Crossing my legs, tilting my head, mimicking the grace I'd seen in Emma's photos. Every tiny gesture felt like stepping deeper into a role I wasn't just playing, but becoming. I caught myself smiling at my own reflection, a thrill I hadn't expected. Yet, with the excitement came fear. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. Every distant sound from the street outside seemed magnified. Emma wasn't supposed to be home for hours, but what if she returned early? What if she saw me like this? My pulse spiked as I imagined the look in her eyes, astonishment, confusion, maybe even admiration. The first time I fully embraced this new persona, I realized it wasn't just about the clothes. It was about the freedom they represented. Each piece of fabric was a boundary I had broken, each movement a step into a world where I could express something I'd hidden for so long. For the first time, I understood the exhilaration of transformation, the intoxicating mix of vulnerability and confidence. I spent the next hour experimenting, swirling in front of the mirror, trying on shoes, adjusting the wig, practicing the subtle curves of my smile. It was like learning a new language, one that spoke not through words, but through the way I carried myself, the flick of a wrist, the tilt of my head. I laughed softly at myself, caught between embarrassment and delight, realizing that this wasn't just a game anymore. It was a revelation. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting golden streaks across the room, I sat on Emma's bed, legs crossed, feeling the soft fabric against my skin. I had discovered something about myself that was thrilling and terrifying at the same time. The person staring back at me in the mirror wasn't just Emma's style. It was part of me, a side I hadn't dared to acknowledge until now. Then my phone buzzed. Emma's text, "Almost home. Can't wait to see you. Red heart." My stomach twisted. Panic mixed with excitement. Could I go back to my old self in time? Or was this the moment that would change everything forever? I stared at the reflection in the mirror one last time before the knock at the door, feeling that the line between play and reality had blurred. This was more than dress up. It was the beginning of a life I hadn't expected but couldn't ignore. And in that moment, I realized that my Saturday afternoon experiment had become a doorway. A doorway into a world of self-discovery, emotional highs, and suspense that would change me forever. The knock at the apartment door made my heart leap into my throat. My hands, still trembling slightly from the thrill of dressing up, flew to the wig, clutching it like a lifeline. Emma's voice followed almost immediately. "Alex? You here?" I froze, caught between panic and exhilaration. The persona I had been exploring, the delicate, confident girl in the mirror, was at odds with the version of myself that Emma knew. My mind raced. Could I hide this? Should I hide this? Or should I step into it fully, risk everything, and see what happened? I ducked behind the door, my skirt swishing softly as I moved. My reflection from the hallway mirror showed someone fragile yet daring. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat as I whispered to myself, "You can do this. Just for a little while." Emma's footsteps grew louder. I could hear the jingle of her keys, the rustle of her bag. My hands shook as I adjusted the blouse and checked the wig one last time. The thrill of being discovered mingled with a growing sense of identity. Every fiber of my being seemed alive with this new persona, and the risk made it all the more intoxicating. When Emma opened the door, I stayed frozen, pretending to be on the phone. Her eyes scanned the room, and for a fleeting second, I thought she might sense something different. But then she laughed softly and said, "Hey, I'm home. What are you up to?" I forced a casual tone, replying, "Just playing some games." But inside, I was anything but casual. My pulse raced as I walked to greet her, balancing the unfamiliar weight of the skirt and the unfamiliar confidence it gave me. Her gaze lingered slightly longer than usual, a mix of curiosity and amusement, and I felt a surge of daring. Once she settled in, I found myself sneaking glances at the mirror, exploring subtle ways to enhance the transformation. A brush through the wig, a tilt of my head, the careful placement of my fingers on the blouse. Each movement was an experiment, a small act of rebellion against the everyday Alex she knew. The thrill was addictive, and I felt more alive than I had in years. Yet, the excitement was tangled with anxiety. Every sound, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant chatter from the street, Emma moving around the apartment, felt amplified. I had to remain composed, to navigate this delicate balance between secret and self-expression. I felt my identity stretching, expanding into something new, and the tension made every breath feel sharp and electric. Later that evening, as Emma watched a show in the living room, I found myself in front of the mirror again, adjusting the skirt and brushing the wig. The reflection staring back at me was mesmerizing, a hybrid of Alex and someone entirely new. I traced the lines of my face, noticing how the makeup softened features I'd always been self-conscious about. For the first time, I felt beautiful, and it terrified me. The internal struggle grew stronger as I explored further. Part of me wanted to retreat, to return to the safety of my old identity. Another part, stronger than I expected, urged me to embrace this side fully. I tried walking around the apartment, balancing on unfamiliar heels, feeling the sway of the skirt with each step. The physical sensations, the subtle pressure of the waistband, the shift of fabric with every movement, heightened my emotional state. I was learning a new language of self-expression, one that was as thrilling as it was disorienting. Hours passed, and I became bolder. I experimented with poses, with expressions, even attempting to mimic the playful gestures I had seen Emma use in videos. The mirror became my confidant, reflecting not just an image, but a new way of being. I laughed softly at myself, realizing how liberating it felt to embody someone so different, yet undeniably me. Then came the suspense. A knock on the door startled me. My neighbor, perhaps, or someone from Emma's family returning early. Panic surged through me. I froze, listening. Footsteps approached, and I realized I had left a pair of high heels too close to the door, their presence a glaring clue. My heart pounded as I scrambled to hide them, nearly tripping over the skirt in my haste. The tension was electric, a mix of fear and exhilaration, making every movement feel consequential. When I finally settled, I caught my reflection again. The person in the mirror wasn't just Alex in disguise. This was someone daring, vulnerable, and alive in ways I had never experienced. My internal conflict, fear of judgment, shame, and the unknown, mingled with the thrill of discovery, creating a heady emotional cocktail. I was addicted to it, craving the next chance to explore this identity further. As night fell, the apartment quieted. Emma had gone to bed, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the mirror. I sat cross-legged on the floor, the skirt flowing around me, and reflected on what had just happened. This wasn't a simple game anymore. It was a revelation, a doorway into a side of myself I had ignored for too long. And the suspense, the fear of being caught, made every sensation sharper, every emotion more intense. I realized that the first experiment was only the beginning. There were challenges ahead, moments of potential discovery, and tests of courage I hadn't yet faced. But for the first time, I felt alive in a way that transcended fear. The thrill of transformation, the tension of secrecy, and the intoxicating sense of possibility had merged into something I couldn't ignore. And as I finally removed the wig and changed back into my usual clothes, I knew deep down that my life had changed forever. The person in the mirror had left a mark, and the adventure was just beginning. The morning sunlight spilled across the apartment, making the previous night's adrenaline feel almost surreal. I had barely slept, my mind replaying every moment I had spent in the skirt, the wig, the new persona. I kept glancing at the mirror, half expecting to see that daring version of myself staring back with defiance. But the reflection was neutral, safe for now. Emma was out for errands, leaving me alone. The apartment seemed quieter than ever, each tick of the clock magnified in the silence. I couldn't resist. I tiptoed to the bedroom, heart pounding, and pulled out the skirt and heels I had hidden. The familiar thrill surged, stronger than before. I slipped into the outfit with trembling hands, feeling the fabric hug me differently this time. The wig felt heavier, more real, as I adjusted it carefully. I stared into the mirror, and the reflection was no longer a tentative experiment. She was confident, alive, daring, a persona I couldn't ignore. Suddenly, a loud knock at the door shattered the quiet. My heart lurched. I froze, caught between panic and the intoxicating thrill of secrecy. Who could it be? Emma? A neighbor? I hadn't expected anyone. I debated my options: hide, open, or freeze in place. The knock came again, louder this time, sending a jolt of fear down my spine. I cautiously approached, glancing at the mirror one last time. She was there, bold and beautiful, yet fragile in her vulnerability. I opened the door just a crack, my voice shaky. Hello. It was Emma, standing there with a small, suspicious frown. Alex, you left your bag in the living room, she said, holding it out. Her gaze flicked downward, catching sight of the shoes I had carelessly left near the doorway. My pulse raced. She didn't comment immediately, but the subtle raise of her eyebrows sent shivers through me. I stepped aside, trying to act casual, but my body betrayed me. The skirt swished with every movement, the wig slightly askew from my nervous fingers. Emma's eyes lingered, curious and unspoken questions forming in her expression. I had never felt this exposed, yet exhilarated. My secret, my identity, teetered on the edge of discovery. Thanks, I muttered, forcing a casual smile, taking the bag from her. My fingers brushed hers, and I felt a spark of connection and fear mingled together. I wanted to freeze time, to savor the thrill, but reality pressed in. Every heartbeat was a drum of suspense. As Emma left, I realized the danger wasn't over. She could come back at any moment. Any slight noise could betray me. I paced the apartment, heels clicking softly on the floor, testing my balance and poise. Each step was a reminder of the dual life I was leading, and the tension made the thrill sharper. Hours passed, and I began experimenting further. Posing in the mirror, adjusting makeup, exploring the transformation in ways I hadn't dared before. But the suspense was relentless. Every sound from the hallway, every distant conversation, made my heart race. I was balancing on a knife's edge, exhilarated and terrified simultaneously. Then came the ultimate test. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. My stomach dropped. I wasn't expecting anyone, and Emma wasn't supposed to be back yet. I peeked through the peephole, my neighbor, smiling warmly, holding a package. Relief washed over me, but only briefly. I had to answer the door, and the skirt, the heels, the wig, they were all visible. I took a deep breath, steadying my nerves, and opened the door. "Hi, thanks for the package," I said, my voice slightly higher than usual. The neighbor's eyes lingered, a curious smile tugging at their lips, but they handed me the box and left. My pulse slowed slightly, but the encounter had reinforced the thrill. The risk of being discovered was real, and it made every moment more intense. I returned to the mirror, adjusting the wig and skirt. The reflection was intoxicating. She was confident, radiant, alive. I traced her face with my fingers, exploring the identity I had created, feeling both vulnerable and powerful. The emotional tension, the fear of discovery mixed with the thrill of transformation, was almost overwhelming. Later, Emma returned unexpectedly early. My heart froze. I had just been experimenting with a new outfit, heels slightly too high, wig slightly askew. I hid behind a corner, hoping she wouldn't notice. Her footsteps grew closer, the jingling of her keys echoing through the apartment. I held my breath, feeling every nerve on edge. Emma walked in, humming softly. I could hear her footsteps approaching the living room, then pause. A soft gasp escaped her lips as her eyes landed on me. Time seemed to freeze. The persona in the mirror, the girl I had become, stood fully revealed. My secret, my new life, teetered on the brink of exposure. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, there was silence. Heavy, electric, charged with anticipation. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet strangely exhilarated. The suspense, the fear, the thrill, it had all led to this pivotal moment. "Alex, is that you?" she whispered, disbelief and curiosity mingling in her tone. My heart pounded, and I realized the next seconds would define everything. I opened my mouth, unsure whether to retreat, explain, or embrace this new self fully. The tension was unbearable, every second stretched into eternity. And as the mirror reflected both of us, me and my new persona, Emma in stunned realization, the stakes had never been higher. The air in the apartment felt heavy, charged with the tension of the moment. Emma's eyes were fixed on me, her disbelief and curiosity colliding in a way that made my chest tighten. I stood frozen, the skirt swaying slightly with the movement of my trembling legs, the wig a little off-center for my earlier adjustments. The heels clicked softly against the floor as I shifted my weight, each sound amplified in the silence. "Alex, I don't even know what to say," Emma murmured, her voice a mixture of confusion and awe. My throat was dry. Words seemed impossible to form. Every instinct screamed at me, run, explain, hide, but something deep inside urged me to remain, to embrace the girl I had become. I took a hesitant step forward. The sensation of the skirt brushing against my legs, the wig settling perfectly, gave me a small spark of courage. "Emma, I wanted to show you this side of me," I admitted, my voice quivering. Her eyes widened slightly, but there was no anger, only a complicated blend of surprise, curiosity, and maybe even understanding. Emma shifted, crossing her arms, but her posture was not defensive. All of this, it's really you?" she asked, her voice softer now. I nodded, my heart pounding like a drum. The apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in with the weight of secrecy and revelation. Then, without warning, there was a sudden knock at the door. My body stiffened. My pulse raced. Who could it be now? The timing was impossible. Emma was here, seeing me in this vulnerable, exposed state, and yet someone else was intruding on the moment. Emma glanced toward the door, her brow furrowed. "Who could that be?" she whispered. I swallowed hard, unsure whether to reveal myself to the visitor or retreat. The knock came again, louder this time, urgent. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears, each thump amplifying the suspense. I glanced at Emma. Her expression was a mix of worry and intrigue, mirroring my own chaotic emotions. I edged closer to the door, trying to steady my shaking hands. The thrill, the fear, the exhilaration of my transformation, it all collided in a single, overwhelming wave. My secret, my identity, my new life, all teetered on the brink. Emma's voice broke the silence. "Alex, maybe you should see who it is." Her tone was gentle, almost teasing, but the underlying tension was unmistakable. I hesitated, every instinct screaming at me to hide, but curiosity and the strange rush of being fully exposed won. I opened the door just a crack. The hallway light spilled into the apartment, revealing a familiar figure, but not who I expected. The visitor's eyes widened instantly, their mouth opening in shock. I froze, caught in the gaze that reflected a mixture of disbelief and fascination. Emma stepped closer behind me, her hand brushing lightly against mine, grounding me in the chaos of the moment. For a heartbeat, there was silence, thick, electric, and suffocating. And then, in a voice I didn't expect, the visitor spoke, their words slicing through the tension like a knife.
"Oh, wow. I
didn't know. I didn't expect." I blinked, unable to form a coherent thought. Emma's eyes darted between me and the visitor, her lips slightly parted in astonishment. The apartment seemed suspended in a bubble of uncertainty, every detail amplified. The swish of the skirt, the wig slightly askew, the heels clicking softly against the floor. The moment stretched, every second a torturous mix of fear, excitement, and anticipation. My heart raced, my mind spinning. Had my secret been discovered? Would Emma's reaction change everything? What would this visitor do next? And then, just as the tension reached its peak, the visitor took a single step forward, their expression unreadable. The screen lingers on the uncertainty, leaving viewers questioning. Did Alex get caught? How will Emma react? Who is the mysterious visitor, and what do they want? The suspense is palpable, the stakes higher than ever.